G'day legends, g'day superstars. Peps back again, and today I have for you the 2023 West Coast Eagles season preview. And once again, when you want the best, Lace Out delivers. And I have got the greatest West Coast aficionado to ever grace the social pages. We know him as Wazza King from Eagle Nation. Great to have you back for the third year in a row. And most importantly, great to talk about your boys from the West.
Thanks, Peps. It's an honour to be back on the show. I love that intro. I'll play it to some people over here and I'll get smashed over here.
Okay, I don't care.
It's a nice thing.
I don't care what they say because when they judge you, it says more about them than yourself. But I'll tell you what, your club, I remember this time last year we were saying, now what's going to stop the Eagles from falling over or succeeding, in 2022? And your simple response was?
Injuries.
Now, I don't think we factored COVID into injuries. That was another story. And I want to hear.
That come later on.
But yeah, you were smashed. Let's be honest. You were smashed and you just couldn't recover.
Yeah, well, this time last year, I think it was just on the verge of when they started having all the injuries. I think we spoke, it was more closer to the pre-season games. And before round one, we had 16 players out injured. So, and 4 of them didn't play for the whole year. And 1 played 1 game. So that can kill any team.
But you're not going to recover from that, are you?
No. And then you factor in COVID, which we didn't handle too well. In saying that, Fremantle had not as many, but they handled it probably a bit better. It showed the Eagles that they weren't invincible like they thought they were.
Because that was, look, I don't think over here in the eastern states, when we saw you, I think you debuted, was it almost 4 to 6 players from, I think the coach didn't even know the name, I don't think, for one of the games. It was...
Yeah, the second game.
That's how decimated you were, injuries and COVID together.
Yeah, we had, 5 or 6 waffle players play, and he was giving the jumpers to them on the day of the game. They probably trained, I think, out of the 6 that went over 2 weeks, only 3 of them had trained with the club. The good thing about it was 4 of them had AFL experience, but, it's pretty hard coming in and playing 1 game and then, you're not going to get another one, or you might get another one, but that was just the way it went. And, but in saying that, you go back and look at that game, they were pretty competitive.
They were actually. They had a crack. I think that was over here in Melbourne, wasn't it? That was the North Melbourne game.
Yeah, North Melbourne, and and then they were decimated with a team against Collingwood and beat Collingwood. And we still can't explain that one.
We can't, and we don't care because we had smiles on our faces over
and
there.
So did we over here.
Seconds team, Collingwood.
The only thing that would have been better for an Eagles fan in that win would have had it been against Fremantle.
Oh,
then it would have been. Doesn't matter what happened in.
Scarborough would have blown itself up, I reckon, if it ever could. Look, you got to have a look at it. It was a pretty average year, and we're not going to spend time on it because that's past. But when you finish the year with 8 points and 59%, that's not a good season. The losses, understandably, but when you're almost having teams kick double what you've kicked for the year, that's the hardest part because that means that you're not getting it and you're not stopping it.
Well, the thing that was even worse was underneath. We couldn't even field a waffle side some weeks, so they ended up with 1 win for the season. So you put it all together, it was a catastrophe all over. So the development underneath, usually the players that probably wouldn't get a game, they were getting games in the AFL and finding out they probably weren't ready.
Yeah.
And but it's probably a wake up call to the clubs. So they worked out that the depth probably wasn't as good, and and only out of all the bad stuff from a season, good things can happen from it. So couldn't get much worse.
Yeah, it's almost that Mark Neild reality check that I think you have to have. And the funny thing is, though, you have a look at your list, like the profile. Your average age is 24 and a half, which sits right in the middle.
Right in the middle, yeah.
And then you've got the average games of 72, which is 7th, which is not bad. But you think that that's probably skewed a bit towards the top end range. That you drop a couple of those high end gamers off the top, that number's going to drop quite considerably as well too. But it's not bad.
if you drop like say Hearn, Shuey, Nat Nui, you're probably slipping right back down to the bottom of the age profile. So it is a bit skewed, as you say. They're the ninth oldest in the AFL list-wise, but take 2 or 3 out and then they drop right back down. So
yeah, exactly.
it's going to be interesting.
Hearn's on 320, Darling's on 257, Gaff's on 252. Gaff's 30. Sometimes it's a little bit shocking. You don't realise how long he's been around for. Shuey 238, and Jamie Cripps 216, and even Nick Nack's 213. So that's pretty much, and they're all coming towards the end. So if you drop that off, it's probably a nice mix of, well, you are going to lose quite a bit of the experience, but you're going to lose those older ones. So the young ones are going to come through together as well too. All right, let's have a look at this year. The question I have at the moment, and this is a telling one, a lot of clubs went through it last year. There was a lot of changes. Where does Adam Simpson sit if West Coast have another year like they did last year?
Well, look, over here, no one even knew he'd signed a contract extension. So he's got another 2 years left on a contract, but we've seen that at St Kilda, contracts mean crap these days. So, look, if he had another year like he did last year, and, you're not going to have as many injuries. You're not going to have COVID as well. So if he's having a bad year like he did last year, he's gone.
And
because,
the club expect more, but the supporters, like they're the ones who will come down hard if you have another year. Like,
well, they're already hard. They're already hard on him anyway, So a lot of people don't see the full picture, what happened in 2022. So they were gunning for his head anyway because he never was big in promoting the youth. But some of those people are blindsided because they forget in 2018 they debuted 9 players and we won a flag. You know what I mean? So it goes each way. So, but to answer your question, he's got no excuses this year. So the only thing that's probably going to save him is to say they've got to win more than 2 games for one. So he's going to have younger players come through. So that probably will save him. So, it's the writing's on the wall for him. You're going to have to produce this year because if not, 2024, you're definitely going to be getting the cut. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
and people have seen it. Goodness knows how many, even clubs that finished in better positions last year, they said, you know what, enough's enough. We have to make these changes.
Yeah, you have to make the change and you have to forecast 5 years ahead. And look, Westfold saw the writing on the wall, so he got out when he did. They were gone in downward trend, so he got out before he got pushed. You look at Moldhouse, he jumped out, probably easy different. So he got offered just a lot of money. He could have stayed. Ken Judge, he lasted 2 years and he was given the door. So I don't think the Eagles are afraid to show the door to a coach, but extenuating circumstances in 2022, you had to give him the benefit of the doubt, even if you liked him or not. So,
well, I've got a feeling that the way the game is being played now, or the way the coaching scenario, the coaching merry-go-round is going, old is new again. And so I would say, look, if he was available, unfortunately he's passed away, they should have gone for Ron Todd again. They should have got Ron Todd back to the club, get him back. I reckon just start from scratch again. Look, hey, if Ross Lyon can do it, if Scotty can do it, if Voss can do it, why can't, well, it's a bit hard now, but, get Ron Todd back. If you could have, get him back because that might have, like I said, get the grunt, get the old WA, early 80s mix.
Yeah, Toddy's probably more in a retirement home these days, and I get to see him every now and then. So he's well past it, but I can see where you're coming from. Who would be the next coach for the Eagles? Well, you're saying old. I think they'd be going young and new.
Yep.
And, to say halfway through the season, the hot favourite would be Jamie Graham, who's now at Fremantle, I'd say, just because he's a WA boy. You know what media's like. They'd go media first. So, Nathan Buckley's another person you'd look at. But in saying that, I think he's got the backing of the club. So they'll give him a full year and we'll see how it goes.
As long as we don't hear we've got the full support of the board, He's safe. As soon as you hear that, start packing your bags and undoing your locker, I reckon.
Well, he did get that this year, late last year, so we were sitting there going, what's going on here?
Late last year. Let's let them six games in and see if they haven't got their, if they're not riding at the doorsteps. Look, one good thing to come out of last year was Tom Barras. Best and fairest winner. He took home his first John Worsfold medal. Is he your next captain?
Look, a lot of people were pushing him up there. If you listen to some interviews with Tommy Barras on different AFL podcasts and channels, look, he's a very well-spoken person. His old man was a great journalist over here and he's very well-versed. But, I don't think, from what I've heard from, players and other things, I don't think he's a person who really wants the captaincy over here. And the big thing over here is that Shuey, they're talking about it now. Will he be captain this year? And likely he's going to be the captain for one more year. The heir apparent to most of the people over here is Oscar Allen.
Yes.
But you can't go putting him as a captain at the moment because he's missed a whole year of footy. He's jumping into one of the biggest holes left in a team, with JK retiring. So, give him 12 months, see how it goes. He was captain of under-18s and, the under-18s carnivals and stuff like that, and at Colts for West Perth and stuff. So he's got leadership written all over him. Another person's been named as Liam Duggan, but I don't have Liam Duggan in my best 22, so how can you have him as a captain? To me, that's me personally.
Oh, that doesn't mean anything. GWS dropped Canelio, if you remember. So
and
I think, look, in his case, you just want, if he's missed a year of footy, you just want to get him back.
Yep. Get him right.
Running around, getting his confidence up, because you got to obviously look at how old he is as well too. He'll be 24 by the time the season starts, so still quite young.
Yeah.
Most are probably pushing high 80s, 90s games. He's only had his 59. So that whole season that he's missed, he's got to get that back. And we've seen most people when they come back after a major injury do take quite a long time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much training you've done, that crash and bash.
That's it.
Once again, if there's players that people are targeting for games, he's going to be one because they just know what he can do.
And his foot injury is a lot worse than what people will think, just from knowing a few people that know him and all that. That's why it took so long with him. People that have had the injury in the past, like James Hurd, only played a couple of years afterwards. So they've got to nurse him through and make sure they get that foot injury right, On the captaincy thing, again, if Shuey was to stand down tomorrow, Jeremy McGovern would be given the captaincy straight away.
Yep.
So, and like you said, he's an older guy. He's 31, isn't he? He's 30. So he's probably got a couple, maybe 3 years left in him. So maybe that's one way that they might tread. But Barras, great player, great season. He's had a couple of great seasons actually. He's underrated. I reckon over in the East, over here, people know what he's like. But as a captain, I don't think he'd want to be the captain, but who knows?
Talking about up-and-comers, I think for the first time in quite a while, you actually went to the draft and had a really big haul.
The last time we went to the draft like that, we got a Nat Nui and we got a Gaff in, following years. And, that's where they become the nucleus. We got Chris Marston in the same time. Going to the draft this year, having 4 picks under 30 was really good for us. A lot of people got a bit bemused when they split the first pick, but to me it was a masterstroke, getting 2 guns instead of 1. And they ended up with 2 WA boys at the start, 3 Victorians, South Australian and 2 Victorians later on. And I couldn't be happier with what they picked up.
Well, North did it as well too. With their number 1 pick, they went the split, and it was the smartest thing that they could do. It's like, okay, between the first round of the draft, it's not going to make much difference. No. So you're right. You're taking 1 spot, you're dropping back 1 spot, but they pick up 2 guns instead of 1. So very, very smart way of looking at it. And even the mid-season pick from last year, Jai Cully, I think I don't know, I'd obviously never heard of him until he started, but he just looked like he was ready built. And you think, how do these players go without getting drafted for so long? They join mid-season or they come through the SSP draft at the start, like Nick Martin did for the Bombers. Yeah. You think, how do they go all the way through? They get the last or a lucky spot on the list, and they literally just fit right in.
Yeah.
He was great for you for the games that he played last year.
Yeah, look, he's well talked about over here. And And I love watching under 18s and all that. And I thought he was pretty hard done by not getting picked up in the draft. And, he went back and worked on a few things. And, he's fitted in straight away. And pre-season, he's probably if I had to pick somebody who's been the standout pre-season, just seeing a couple of trainings, he is by far the standout.
Yeah.
And he's a big lad.
And the thing is, he's almost 20 as well, too. Yeah. So he's not, and it's going to sound strange, he's not 18, where between 18 and 20, there's that extra bit of maturity that goes through. It's probably had to work for it a lot harder, but for his 4 games, he averaged 13 posies. He did his job in a team that was struggling as well. But the thing was, he was averaging 7.5 tackles. So he wasn't afraid to get in and have a crack as well, which, let's be honest, West Coast didn't do much of throughout.
Well, that's what they need. They needed an inside beast. And like you said, tackling was his forte. And I think people are going to see a lot more of him this year doing that. And if he can get the pill a bit more, he's going to be taking Redden's spot. So if he can capture what Jack Redden was doing for the Eagles, and that, Eagles fans are going to be laughing. And, like I said, he's a big boy. And he's got that, to me, he's very laid back. But when he crosses that line on the footy and training and all that, it's just full on 100%. So, and, if he had been in the draft this year, he would have gone, from what all the critics are saying or the experts are saying, he would have gone in the top 20. So it's basically a free hit for the Eagles, isn't it?
Free hit. And that's what I seriously can't understand why teams don't just leave one spot on their list.
Yeah.
That mid-season, because you can pick up a diamond. John Newcombe is a perfect example for Hawthorn.
Oh, perfect.
Total diamond in the rough, and now's a 3-year contract extension and dominating over at Hawthorn as well. So I think he took out, he was second in their best and fairest, I think, last year.
Like you said, a lot of drafting is on youth, and you pick up these mature players that are 20. It's funny that you're calling them mature at 20, you know what I mean? But, these guys are getting missed in the draft, and then they come straight in, but not enough of them are coming. Clubs aren't doing it enough. And I don't want to harp on Freo, but, they picked a guy called Corey Wagner, who was ex-North Melbourne player, and I think
he was ex-Melbourne as well.
Melbourne, right? And, and from all accounts, he killed it in the VFL, but there's players over here in the Waffle, Rogers and Jai Bolton, all that at Claremont, that are killing it. And, they don't pick somebody from the backyard. So they, a couple of these guys playing in the lower leagues, they should be in the AFL. And I think that the AFL should bring in somewhere at the season, and you got to pick 2 mature age guys, even if it's an extra 2 people on your list. You got to pick 2 players 23 and above.
One of my bugbears I have is this whole rookie.
Yeah, the rookie. Get rid of it.
Spots, because that's what the rookie spots were for players like that. Now they're using them to redraft them. The AFL really needs to have a good hard look at that, because there are players. And look, I played footy. You played footy many, 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 many years ago now, and you'd sit back and go, this guy's just too good to be playing at this level.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, he's playing at a, Division 1 local footy when he could be playing VFA or VFL at that stage, Waffle. There's got to be spots, and that's, Dean Cox is the perfect example. Gets a spot on the rookie list, and probably the best ever to come off that list in the history of the game.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Not being used as it was, and the AFL really need to make a decision of, hey, the rookie list is only for players that are this. You cannot take someone off and just drop them to the rookie list, because too many clubs are doing it, and it's not designed for that way. So you're right. I think there needs to be something brought in, and what you said there would be a perfect example.
Some clubs do it well. West Coast have done it well with McGovern. He was a rookie. Geelong with Tom Stewart. And then you look at Richmond, they had one draft where they had 4 of the guys all on rookies, and they all end up triple premiership players, So to me, it's a no-brainer, but not enough clubs do it. I don't know why, but hopefully things change in the future for these older guys, because there's, like you said, there's a ton of names out there.
Yep, and you mentioned it's on potential as well too. That's what drafting is. Yeah. It's what you see in potential. It's not a science. Hey, I wouldn't do it. There's no way you'd put me into drafting.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
It's not a perfect science, but you've just got to know what you're looking for. And the funny times, it's almost when it's right in front of you, yet you don't decide to go down that route. It's almost that whole Moneyball approach. Oh, he throws funny or his girlfriend's ugly or whatever. There's something that you should be going with him, but you're not because of superstition that you can see.
I don't like his kicking. So what? He finds football, he finds a football, you know what I mean?
Did you see how Josh Kennedy kicked shuffles? Yeah. Oh, my goodness gracious. And look how he turned out, one of the best ever. Now, you mentioned on potential. Out of the guys so far that you've had come to the club, what's the news over there? Who's setting it alight? Who is the preseason champion so far that you're listening to?
The preseason champion has been
You're calling now.
Turn my phone off. Jai Cully's been the standout. Ruben Jinby, oh, mate. This kid, how he wasn't picked in the first 5, I don't know, but he's a man-mount. He's a big unit. He's Fife-like. He's probably bigger than Fife around the shoulders. He's been doing really good pre-season. Even Elijah Hewitt, which we picked up with pick 13 or 14, whatever it was.
14.
But he's played league footy over here, Waffle, last year. He played different roles and, he's played against men, so he's going to stand in pretty well. The ruck guy that we got, Harry Barnett from South Australia, he's been on the rehab list, so he's just got a bit of an ankle problem, but, they're just
kid
pushing him through.
Yep.
But he's the heir apparent for Nick Natanui, so the two other guys we've got on there, Jamison and Williams, they've got to produce this year because they've got somebody underneath that's going to take the spot if they don't. A young guy that they picked up with the last pick, 58, which they weren't going to use in young Noah Long, man, he's burning it up as a small forward. There's not much of him. He's tiny, but, he's got some skill.
It's funny now that when you look at small forwards, remember there were those sort of stages where they had to put on a bit of size because of the way that the game was played. Now it's almost like we actually want those fleet-footed, a little bit less weight, but the speed and the agility side of things. Carlton did it beautifully last year.
Yeah.
Collingwood did it really well. If you can have him on one side and you've got
Liam Ryan on the other.
Cripps. Mm-hmm. And Cripps as well, that's speed. And as we know, speed kills, regardless of whether it's 1980 or whether it's 2023, speed kills on a football field. Yeah. Nothing has changed.
And that's one position that's up for grabs, seeing Junior Rioli's gone to Port Adelaide. There's a few candidates that are going to be pushing for that spot. Jack Petrocelli, Isaiah Winder. Hewitt can probably play as a forward pocket, but, I'd rather see him in the mid. So you got that. And then you got a young guy from country Victoria in Burgle. He's got pace to burn, but he runs off half back. So, I haven't seen much of him on the training track as much, but, give these guys a chance. They're going to be pushing. So, and they're pushing up the players from last year that, got a taste of AFL football because of injury. And they're going to, hopefully, they're pushing up, they're putting the pressure on people, and it's going to be, people are going to have to earn their spots this year. So,
I'll tell you what,
like Xavier O'Neill and Zane True and the likes that have been there a couple of years on the list, they're fighting for the spot because at the end of the year, we've got 16 out of contract. So, and some of those players I've just named are out of contract. So, it's going to be interesting.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's one person who's going to love playing on that big Optus Oval Stadium over there in Perth is one of my old boys, Jaden Hunt. If you can't have him on the half-back line.
And he can move.
He's got wheels. Don't worry about that. He can play. He was stiff, funny enough, the way that the 2021 premiership sort of worked out. He was very stiff all the way up until the finals, and indeed had an ankle injury and went down. He was looking pretty. So I think he just needs a fresh coat of paint, a fresh set of eyes on him, and he'll do really well over there in West Coast. You just give him space, just give him the ball and let him run. Disposal at times can be a bit frustrating, so don't be afraid. No, it's not going to be silver service. Yeah. But what he will do is he will get it to the other end of the ground quite quickly. And if you just say to him, mate, just kick it long, you're not going to have any issues. Just don't. He's not a surgeon. I would say he's not a sniper. He's more of a demolition type of guy. Just bang it long, just get it in there.
He breaks a lot. He breaks the lines. And watching him at training the other day, that's what he was doing. And pace to burn, they were running him off a halfback. I think he wants to play more of a wing.
Yep.
So, those two positions he'll probably float in and out of. So, yeah, and, he's gone under the radar over here because everyone's talking about Jinby and Hewitt and Jai Cully, and he's just sitting there and he's coasting along, and, yeah, he's living by the beach. So he said, over here the lifestyle suits him. So, yeah, look, I'm wrapped when he said he wanted to come West Coast. So that's what I love, when you get a player like him that, he's not from WA. Yep. He's from Victoria. No, he's from South Australia, and he's Victorian.
He's Victorian. Victorian, I went to Caulfield Grammar, so I was Victorian.
But, and then he sits here and goes, I want to have a go at it, just like Jack Redden did when he was in Brisbane, pick out West Coast and then go for it. So, wrapped to have him on board. So
yeah, shame to see him go, but I think that it's a win for him. Free agency, like he's done his time, and he just wants to freshen up. And probably, sometimes the writing is on the wall a little bit to see who have I got to get through. And if West Coast had come in and said, "Hey, listen, we can offer you this, this, and this," it's a perfect example because he's going to be a great addition to those young guys as well too. Like he's been in a premiership environment, plus with the guys that have been there for the 2008, he can just set the standards that the young groups need, which is exactly right. All right. So what's going to happen in 2023? What sort of the writing on the wall can you see happening? Like we know it's probably not going to be the same as last year. Like everything that could have gone wrong, every mirror that could have been broken, every ladder you walked under, every black cat walked across in front of you, that happened. Do you see some genuine resurgence? Do you just want to see these games getting into these kids? Where do you sort of see, is there the way the game is played going to be a little bit differently? What have you sort of noticed throughout training?
There is a change in style and play. The way they used to be slow out of the back half and pinpoint and all that. So they're trying to move it quicker, and it's, I guess a lot of teams are trying to do that. So, and you can tell just in the intra-club game they had start of the week, and just by training, they're trying to move it quicker from half-back or the back line. So there's going to be a subtle, it's not going to be a big change, but they actually look quicker. So, but it is pre-season. So most teams want to be looking quicker, but they do look quicker than they did last year with their release of the ball. To me, if I was down the club, I'd have a sign up there saying no excuses. And that should be everywhere. Just no excuses, You'd go for it this year. Get back to that one vision sort of thing. I'm an optimist. I think they can rise. A lot of people say they don't. I go back to 2010 when they won the wooden spoon and then played in the prelim the next year. So, and, we saw this year with Collingwood, things can change pretty quickly, you know what I mean, if luck's on your side. So, they've still got a basis of a good team. I think they've still got 8 All-Australians on the list, you know what I mean, which is probably the second or third behind Melbourne and Geelong. So they've got a good nucleus of older guys, and, they've got 28 players, 24 and under now. So there's something that hasn't been on the list profile for the Eagles for quite a while. So that's encouraging to look at. So underneath, we've got something to push up now. And, these older guys, they're not going to have it all their own way. But in saying that, round 1 is going to be totally different to round 23 last year against Geelong. But, we all knew what happened last year. So there's going to be a totally different team round 1 coming, barring that they all stay fit and not injured. So
you want it to be a little bit different than last year, because your first 4 games, unfortunately, first one is, where the nightmare started, which was North Melbourne away. You got them first. So if you can knock that one out early, you're halfway to redemption. GWS at home, so that's potentially your first 2 could be definitely a win. Fremantle away, which is here or there. It's the same ground anyway.
Yep.
And then you got us, Melbourne, for the 4th game at home as well too. So, I'd say 3 of those 4 very, very winnable games.
To me, if they play to their best, they could probably win all 4.
They probably.
But they could lose all 4 as well. So
I can definitely see them being North. Definitely see them being Greater Western Sydney. I think they're in more of a decline than most people are expecting. Fremantle, you just don't know what Fremantle. It's like which Fremantle will turn up.
Yeah, which Fremantle turns up.
And I think Melbourne 4 games in will be pretty prime. So, but once again, will they rest anyone? I don't know. But
you just said the first 4 games. The Eagles need to bank some wins because the next 4 are really hard, all against top 4 sides from memory: Geelong, I think Port Adelaide's probably in there again. Sydney, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember what it was, but when I had a look. But, you know, they want to bang a few wins early because it could get ugly. And that's where you say, if they're round 10 and they're only 2 wins, I think Simpson's in a lot of trouble.
And like I said, I reckon you can nail 3 of those first 4, which will be it's already an improvement of the previous year as well too. You've got the 17th hardest degree of difficulty when it comes to your draw. You've actually got Adelaide twice, Carlton twice, Essendon twice, Freo and North Melbourne and Richmond. I think Adelaide definitely on your day you can get them twice. Carlton, not sure. Essendon definitely. Once again, if you're over here at the moment, Essendon's they haven't got any forwards. Everybody's cooked at the moment, all on the injured list. Freo, you could probably split that. North Melbourne, definitely. So
you say North Melbourne, definitely. It doesn't matter where Eagles and North Melbourne are.
No, it's always a good game. Definitely can win it. Definitely can win it. But North, they're going all right at the moment too. Like, don't be surprised that the standards and so forth that Clarkins already brought.
Clarko's a different kettle of fish, isn't he? So who knows what he can pull out of the bag. But that it is a winnable game for the Eagles. So that's what they should be looking at, you know. They've only got a few on the injured list at the moment, so that's good touch wood. So, you know, come round 1, they'll be looking to win that first game first of all, you know.
Yep.
So if they don't, then you will hear rumblings if they don't win that first game. And they should win against Giants at Optus. And like you said, Freo, it's a home game, so probably leans in their favour. Dean Margetts as an umpiring, so Freo fans won't have to worry about that because they've always gone about him. So,
don't worry. The Purple Rain Boys love talking about good old Dean Margetts.
You know, so, and, you know, it's the old myth they have over here every time they play. Oh, Margetts was umpiring. Yeah, guys, I think it's more the players on the ground than the umpires. But anyway.
I think that North Melbourne game, you're exactly right. We talk about form going into round 1. It's kind of interesting to see that their practice matches that they play. Who have they got for their practice matches, by the way? I didn't look that up.
West Coast.
Yeah.
So West Coast got Port Adelaide in the last week of February over here.
Yep.
And Freo play Adelaide.
Yep.
And then the next week with the official one, they swap over. Eagles play Crows and Freo play Port Adelaide. So
you got 2 nice little sweepers.
Yeah, so they've got 2 games at home. So the Adelaide have probably, I don't know if they're coming over and staying here. I'd guess they would be. So, yeah, this, you know, at least it's not West Coast versus Freo like in years past.
They did that a couple of years ago and I thought, why?
Well, they've done it for the last 4 years and they, you know.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, and the only thing about it is Freo, when they win, they have a bit of a gloat and then when it comes to
No, they wouldn't.
But
Freo, come on.
Yeah, I stuck about 2018 how they were going in the preseason. They were the flag favourites.
Yep. I think with that, it'll be like I said. The interesting thing for me is the form that you show in those 2 practice matches because they're probably 2 teams. Maybe Port is a little bit higher, but I reckon Adelaide and yourself are pretty much
they're
on par. And I think if that round 1, if you beat North, so be it. If you lose to North, how you lose will be the deciding factor. If you go down by a point or 2, whatever, and it's just an absolute shootout and things happen, but if it gets quite ugly, and when I say quite ugly, I'm talking not 4 or 5 goals.
Oh yeah, look,
which doesn't sound like a lot, but you know, if you're sitting back and going, hold on, West Coast against a team that was worse than us, and they've pumped us by 5.
Yeah, you said it depends. It's how you lose, you know what I mean?
It's how you lose, exactly.
And that's, you know, some games last year and even the year before, as Eagles fans, you were angry because they went out and they showed for a quarter they could play football and then they dropped right off. So, you know, this year I think it's going to see a different and vast improvement, hopefully, in body language and application on the footy ground. So, like I said, they lose by a goal or 2 and it's pretty good. You know, that's acceptable, and that's going to be the whole year. You know what I mean? It's not just round 1; it's going to be round 24. You know,
it's almost if we win, great, but it's how we lose because I know Paul Roos said it quite a number of times when he was at Sydney, when he was at Melbourne. He said, "Look, it's not really about the wins and losses; it's that percentage, because that percentage is probably more of an indicator of where you're at. So if you're losing games, but your percentage towards the end of the year was 100. I know when I spoke to Tommy Roker about Gold Coast Suns, they didn't make the 8, but their percentage was 102 last year.
Yep.
Which was, I think, the first or second best percentage outside of the team in the 8. So that just goes to show that they were tracking in the right direction, because if you remember from years before, you'd get to May and they wouldn't see them. So they went longer. Anderson signs up for another 4 years, which is a brilliant sign. At the time of the recording, we didn't even know that. So that's another brilliant sign for them that they are going forward. So it'll be interesting to find out who your ski double up's going to be, Liz Smiley style, like who's going to be going up and who's going to be going down when it comes to the 2023 AFL ladder as well too. Before we get into that, there is one player that I have to ask you about. He has been, would he have been in the top 3 players ever at West Coast when I talk about the dreadlock superstar Nick Nat? Would he go down as one of the best ever? Because I think from a ruck perspective, brilliant. I don't think he does enough around the ground.
Look, to me, it depends on how you answer it. Answer the question. Best as a player, probably not. I'd put him in the top 5 to 10.
Yep.
As a ruckman, some of the stuff he does, not other ruckmen do. And some of, he's around the ground. He's never been big on that, reading the play. So, but if you take him just on his ruck taps and what he does up forward, I always have Dean Cox way ahead of Nick Nui, right?
How do I forget about Coxie? I brought him up earlier. Forgot. Sorry, Coxie.
And to me, depends on what era. Like, I go right the way back. My favourite, and I always reckon the best, is Peter Matera by a long shot. Then have Dean Cox.
You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out. You win 2 Norm Smiths, you probably got some idea on how to play the game.
You got Dean Cox, you got Ben Cousins. So, but if you go on presence and image and what do you call it?
This is the it factor.
Selling a club.
X factor, selling
a club. There's no one that's been bigger than him in WA.
Yep.
You know what I mean? The guy's a man mountain. He's how tall he is. I met him once and he was sitting down and he was taller than me, and I was standing up. So, the presence of him, he'd be the biggest selling point over here. And, you just talk to players that played the game with him and even against him. They sit there and go, how the hell did he do that? You know what I mean? So he's a bit of a freak, but, in the top 10 for me, but not in the top 5 maybe.
No, his ruck to follow-up work was essential. And there hasn't been many ruckmen that have won multiple games off their own boot after the siren. I think he's done it twice. So, it's like I said, is it going to be his last season, do you think?
No, he's got 2 years left in him, but, they're nursing him through pre-season at the moment. He played about 50% game time of the intra-club on Tuesday, whenever it was. So, they're nursing him free. He's had a bit of a knee operation off-season, so they had to get that right. He's dropped a lot of weight, so that's an encouraging thing. He's a big, he's a Fijian boy, and he's a twin, right? So his brother's totally, if you saw his brother next to him, you wouldn't know it's his brother. So,
I was about to say, how come we didn't get him as well?
Well, he's more like the rugby type Fijian. He's a big boy. So, big build and stuff like that. So, and not as tall as him. He's dropped a lot of weight. So hopefully that protects his knees a bit. That's why he doesn't probably go for big screamers anymore, because he's probably worried about the knee, because he's done both knees. So, and as you would know with Gorney, you're better off doing the knees at the start of your career, not the end of your career. So, but one more knee, Nick Nat Nui, he's probably one more knee injury away from retirement.
Yeah. And it's a shame.
So hopefully touch wood 2 years.
I never liked playing against him, because you might as well just get your ruckman out and put 4 on ballers on in the middle, because your ruckman was never going to win. Just his tap work around the ground was sublime.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Now, Woz, we have to talk about who's going to be sublime across the board here. All right.
Yep.
So, like I said, we're going to do the ski double up. So, someone's going to be going up, someone's going to be down from the AFL across the board. Let's start with who, in your eyes, will be dropping down the ladder. Now, when I say dropping down the ladder, it can be from top 8. It can be, top of the bottom 8 and down, top of the bottom part down. It doesn't have to be just resigned to that top part, but
All right.
you had a few teams to go through. So who's going in your eyes?
Well, out of the 8, firstly, in the bottom, I'd see Hawthorn dropping down just because of the list profile, what they're trying to achieve.
Yep.
I think they'll be competitive, don't get me wrong like that, but, for them to have a better season or go up, I think they'd have to do something that's not very done much in the AFL. So I see them going down a bit. Essendon are probably the other ones that, like I said, they've got a team that could go in the finals, but will they? It's nearly 7,000 days since they've won one. So I see them going down a little bit. Out of the 8, I have the Bulldogs dropping out, and I have Collingwood dropping out. Because I just can't see Collingwood having that much luck again this year. And what I mean by luck is there was like 10 games that they won or lost by, 6 points or less, So, and somebody I'll say, well, that's how they believe in themselves. And so, yeah, they could, but I just can't see it happen 2 years in a row unless they're killing teams. And, their list hasn't really changed too much from, they've lost Grundy, you know what I mean, who takes their number 1 ruck spot. So they're the 2 teams that I got going out. Going into the 8, well, if you're a Blues fan, you'd be saying, I want to be in the 8 this year. And there's nothing stopping them. They should have been in the 8 last year. Let's face it, the last 4 games, only had to win one of them.
Yeah, having a chat with Terry from Lure Broad very shortly, and we're going to chat about that. And he's already written in his email, he goes, if it doesn't happen this year, I don't know when it's going to happen, because they ran 41.5 kilometres of the marathon and tripped over in the last 500 metres.
Yeah.
They were there.
Yeah. And, so they're a team that I could see pushing up. Richmond, to me, they're a dangerous team. And you add in the likes of Hopper and Taranto and, I know a few players went out of there like Lambert and Edwards that were the nucleus of the team. So can Taranto and Hopper just as good as players, if not better, but have they got that team fabric behind them? So they're a team that I reckon can challenge for the 8. For Adelaide, they should be pushing for the 8. If they didn't lose 5 games at the start of last year, they would have been playing the 8. So that's make or break for them. Let's face it, it's make or break for them. Otherwise, Hinkley's gone. And I'm just going to chuck this in because I'm an optimist. And I think if the Eagles play to the full potential, they can knock on the 8. Knock on the door of the 8.
Hey, you got to believe in something, because remember what hope stands for. Hold on, pain ends. That's the interesting one out of all of that is one team that you mentioned to drop out was the Bulldogs. Now, that was one I went, okay, I didn't see that one at all coming on the radar. They've brought in Lobb, they've brought in Jones, so they've got 1 down forward, 1 down back. But what's made you think that they're going to drop out? I know they finished 8th literally by 0.5%.
I think just for them, to me, they've got to have everything going their way. Bontempelli was injured last year, so that's probably a reason why they didn't go in. We all know what happened with Bailey Smith. They need all their guns firing. Lockie Hunter's now your mob now. So, he gets the ball on average 40 touches a game. So who's going to be the next person to pick up his slack, you know what I mean? And I know a lot of it's across half back or on, feeding off and stuff like that, but it's a big hole to fill. Dunkley's gone. Yeah. So it's another hole they've got to fill. So that they've probably got the talent there. And Bevo, as I've talked on a couple of and you talk with Craig Wessels on Yangan Footy, Bevo's a guy that'll play all these players, you know what I mean? But just something, I don't know, I think it's just a team cohesion thing there with me. They've got the young, what's his name? Big Ruckman, Darcy.
And that's where I can see, I don't know how they're going to fit them all in. I don't know how to fit in Lobb, Ugle-Hagan, Darcy And you still got Josh Bruce, who probably would be the fourth one there. But where do you fit them all?
Well, he's been playing defence in the off-season, the pre-season. He's been playing more down defence. So, yeah, like I said, it has come to me, it's just they're the team that were vulnerable in 22, and I can see them being vulnerable this year.
Yep.
But we know what predictions are like. You know what I mean? No one ever gets them right. No. So,
like I said, the Adelaide guys said that they were taking home the flag last year. 5 rounds in, it's the funniest audio to go back and have a listen to. One thing I want to mention with that list, we've obviously got our top 8. Who do you see taking it out at the end of the season? Is there somebody that stands out at the moment? Is there a couple of teams in it?
Well, the easy answer is to say Geelong go back-to-back, but we know what it's like. Well, you know exactly what it's like going back-to-back, same as me. It's hard to win back-to-back. Look, to me, Brisbane it's the time for them to make the charge now. I think they've been around that top 4 for the last 3, 4, 5 years and just haven't been able to finish it off in September. So, it'd be hard to see teams beating them up in Brisbane, like West Coast. And this is going off segment here, but AFL, can you make Brisbane come over and play West Coast at Optus? Because it hasn't happened since they started. So, so there's another win for them. So, yeah, Brisbane to me, Geelong, Sydney, what Sydney are we going to get? They're the team, no one picked them in start of the year to be in the grand final, let alone the 8. Richmond, to me, Melbourne, can they get everything going again? But, to me, Brisbane are the team to beat this year.
Interesting. It's funny. It's like, for a couple of these chaps, I've had Brisbane's come up a couple of times. But it's not a definitive, Brisbane. No, I can see them doing it because they've still got those questions on you put Danaher. I would say, though, that they've basically got a number 1 draft pick in Ashcroft coming through. They've got Dunkley who's gone up there. So it does take a bit of pressure off Neil, etc. So they've literally, but I also think there is some mental challenges that group still struggle with when it gets to the pointy end of the season. I saw them live in a final last year and it was just like they beat Melbourne and basically everybody did. But it wasn't fantastic. Yeah. They played good footy, but then when we saw what Geelong and Collingwood did, it was a different level.
Yeah.
So they actually have to jump another level just to get to that level.
Yeah, they play good and then they get to Brisbane. And, they get to the finals and they fall over. So, but they've done that 5 years in a row. So, there's twice where they should have been in a grand final, especially when they played most of the games, 2020. Most of us up there, they'll be kicking themselves. So, like you said, there's no definitive answer.
There's no definitive answer. And I know last year I think there was only probably 3 or 4 teams that were mentioned across all 18 of these that we did. I think there's been 6 teams mentioned already, which is exciting going in already. Like you said, you mentioned Geelong, you mentioned Richmond, you mentioned Melbourne, you mentioned Sydney. The statistics say when you have a demoralising grand final loss like that, you really struggle the next year. Perspective. So that's going to be interesting. And then, like I said, Brisbane just keep getting brought up. So I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it.
It'll be an even year, I reckon.
Yeah, actually, funny enough, last year was pretty even. If you have a look at the top
10.
Yeah, the top 10, yeah. Top 10, there was, I think, 7 games between the top 10, but literally between 1st to 5th, there was 3 games, which it's normally locked in. And even normally from 5th to 10th, there was only, I think, a couple of games in there. So if we get another season like last year, I would love for the AFL to do what the EPL do and just play all games at the same time. There's not enough rounds. There's just not enough rounds.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. And that would be good.
It would be brilliant. Hey, what would be brilliant would be, we're going to get you back for a 4th year? I hope so.
Yeah, Get me back in many years you got, mate.
Get back now. What are the plans for the Eagle Nation this year? What have you got your listeners? Was there anything major coming out? Any changes to the group this year?
No changes to the group.
The Eagle crew over there in Perth.
Yeah, no changes. no changes as a group, just the same bulk every three of us every episode, hopefully. But yeah, more shows during the week. So we'll split it up this year instead of just doing the one show. We'll split it all up. We'll have on the Tuesday night, we'll preview the game that they just played. So we're calling that the final siren. Then we'll have the waffle wrap in the middle of the week. So brief talk about what the waffle's doing, what players are pushing up, what do we expect from the waffle this year. And later on in the week, probably the Thursday or the Friday, we'll do the bounce down show, preview the game coming up. And in between there, hopefully I get access to some of the players this year if the Eagles don't continue along their COVID line and asking for all the questions first and stuff like that. Hopefully that. Have got a few ex-players and coaches signed up for some interviews during the year, so that's coming up through soon, and a couple of journos over here with their preview of the games and stuff hopefully going as well.
So it's going to be a big year for you boys again. What year is it?
Yeah,
Number what?
It's 6th year running, so year 6. So it's a labour of love as they call it. Got a couple of places online sponsoring us now, so that's good. They're backing us a little bit, so hopefully we get some merch out there this year. So
nice. We're hitting our 6th year as well too, and people just sit back and go, what, you're 6th? Oh, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, 6th year, and you, really? Yeah, really.
I was out at Aquatics Centre the other day, and I hear somebody going, Wazza, and I'm like, oh, can't see anyone I know. And somebody goes, oh, you're from Eagle Nation. I go, how do you know? I'm a phase ain't on the thing, but because of the couple of the footy pages and all that.
Yep.
And I've been on a couple of different other places there on YouTube. And so I got to talk about them. And, you ask them the questions, what they want to hear and stuff like that. So I took that on board. And, it's good to see you talk to people out there. The people are listening to it. And, trying to broaden the audience now. So got a big following now. Since being on the Yank and the footy, which you've been on, the listeners coming out of America is amazing.
Yeah, it's a spin out. It's a spin out when you just get people come out of everywhere. And, for everybody listening to this now, I know you're listening to Lace Out, or you're going to be jumping onto the Eagle Nation. Listen to them all, because some of them the reason why we do this is because we love our footy. We love this. But we try to put a non-commercial, honest appraisal of, we'll call a spade, and we're happy to get stuck in our own teams as well too. And I think that's what keeps us honest, and that keeps us accountable as well too to the listeners, that we're not trying to put the spin on it like others would do.
That's it.
And that's why they keep coming back, and that's why we keep coming back. It's reciprocal. You love us, we love you, and we can't ask them up more than that. So, listeners, that is your 2023 West Coast Eagles season preview. I've actually got you at the moment finishing around about 16th, 15th, but that's just because I'm not at the coalface like you are, and there's got to be a bit of room. But I'm happy to be proven wrong. And
You're probably only about
if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it's great to have you back always, Mr. King, because you are an absolute superstar and you're representing the West Coast Eagles at a very professional level over there. So everybody's proud of what you're doing over there. But before we go, I have one simple question and one question only, and it's this. Mr. Warren King from Eagle Nation, how do you want your footy?
It's only one way, mate, and that's Lace Out.
Have a great week, listeners, and get on the Eagle Nation. All their bits and pieces will be in the show notes. Get on them. They are amazing.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for listening to our latest episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on iTunes. I'm your host, Chris Pepper, and with Jamie Wallis, we give you your footy how you want it. Peace out.